Welcome to Fuller Expectations, the podcast for anyone looking at exploring growth, reinvention, and living a fuller life. I'm your host, Carrie Fuller, and every week we'll talk to guests and have honest conversations. We'll share inspiring stories and offer practical ideas to help you create a life that makes you feel aligned, empowered, and authentically yours, no matter what age or stage you're in. I am so glad you're here. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hi, Ron. How are you?
I'm amazing. How about yourself?
You are amazing. I have known you for so long, and that's one thing I can confirm is that you are amazing. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm so excited to have you with us today to talk about turning a hobby into a profession. You've done that so well. And why don't we get started by sharing a little bit about the backstory? So starting at the beginning, what was the hobby that you fell in love with?
I didn't know it was a hobby. I didn't know I was going to fall in love with it because I first put a camera in my hand when the doctors told us that Samuel only had 3% chance of life. So he had 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. We didn't know what that was going to be. So I put a camera in my hand just to document whatever time that I had with him. So I didn't know that was going to turn into a passion / hobby / profession.
And what were you doing career-wise leading up to that? What were you doing in your career?
I was a machinist. I was there for 32 years. I was making any tool for any profession, anything from the military. We were making all kinds of hubs and bases and tools for housing, homing devices for the Patriot missile back in Desert Storm, right up to a dentist using those small drills in your teeth for, doing fillings. I was making tools like that. A lot of medical stuff, a lot of dental stuff, a lot of orthopedic. We used to make tools and saws that would cut the skull to do autopsies on the brain and things like that. And everything in between, chainsaw blades, anything that would need to be sharpened, we would do.
Awesome. And you were the provider for your family, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pressure when there's one person providing for the family.
Yeah, for sure.
When you were doing photography, when did you realize that you could potentially turn that into more than just a hobby?
I never intended it to be a profession. My intentions were to keep doing photography, getting better at it, because the way that it started was just documenting my own family's life because of starting with Sam being born premature at 1 pound, 7 ounces. We just documented everything. So that taking pictures for myself turned into other people seeing me take pictures of my family to go take pictures of their families in the park. So it kind of evolved in that sense that I just got better at it. My goal was to keep doing the machine shop full time and then just doing families, high school seniors, and now I'm doing weddings, but doing weddings on the side also. So it was always my plan B. Never was going to be this is what I'm going to turn it into. It was always my plan B, have it in my back pocket so that make supplemental income so we can pay for our cruises and pay for our trips and things like that, fix the house. And that's where it originally started from, was just that intent of just being good enough to make a little bit of money, put it in the bank, put it in 401k, put it into the house, put it into our vacations and things like that. And that's where it started. That was my whole intent from the very beginning, was to never retire from my machine shop job, because that machine shop job was my retirement plan. That was my end goal, staying there as long as I possibly could. The money was good. The opportunities were great. Everything was excellent about it. So the photography was just supplemental to put extra money in our pocket.
What was the defining moment? When did you suddenly realize that you could actually do that as a profession?
I'm actually still surprised I'm able to do it.
Really?
Yeah. What happened was my whole intent was keep doing the machine shop, keep doing the photography. The photography got so well and so abundant that I was doing full-time photography and full-time machine shop. So I was doing 17, 18, 19 weddings a year while still doing a machine shop job. So weddings happen on the weekends. So I would go and work on a Saturday and go do a wedding on a Saturday and then go back to the machine shop back on Monday. And the hard part was the balance between family life, being home every single night for dinner, helping the kids with homework. I coached all their baseball teams. I coached all their soccer teams. I coached basketball while still doing full-time photography and still doing full-time machine shop. I was forced into it. I feel like that's the best way I can explain it. How did I get into photography full-time? COVID happened. My boss, who was there for 46 years, they gave him a separation package during COVID that if he left, he can go do what he needs to do and retire because he was already 70 years old. And I've been being trained for that his position, which was a six-figure position for the past 15 years. So still doing photography, still doing my house, still doing my kids, still having a life, still being with my family. Family always came first, always does come first. Photography was in the back pocket, got into the machine shop, and then my manager retired. They started, the new manager came in for about a year. My old manager retired, so there was a 1-year lapse of him training that new manager. Long story short is now I've been being trained for that position for 15 years. I've literally been doing that position as my boss's right-hand man. So the new manager came in and was like, hey, Ron, we're going to put you in that position. Meanwhile, this is all still doing my photography, still doing 17 weddings a year, still doing family, still doing all of this. And he said, we're just going to transition you into that position. So I said, okay, fine. It's about time. So I did it for about 4 months, actually taking the title of supervisor manager, overseeing 15, 20 people inside of the machine shop. So 4 months go by and he called me in the office. Now, meanwhile, my old manager's gone. So he's out of the picture completely. The new manager decided he was going to, basically what he did was he sat me down and said he changed his mind. And I leaned up out of the chair and I said, excuse me? And he goes, he changed his mind. He's going to give it the position to somebody else. I have 20 more years seniority over the person that he gave the position to. So he said he's going to change his mind. So I questioned him on it. And he had no answers except for he changed his mind. This is what they said. I was so good at my job working on the machine that any hard jobs that came in, they gave right to me. Any new training people, they gave to me. Any hard, impossible jobs that needed to get done, they gave to me. So therefore, I was more beneficial on the machine than I was behind a desk.
Yeah. Isn't it funny to think about? Because I know there's a lot of people that I know that are working really hard and are in that same position where they get passed by for things and they stay. They just keep doing what they're doing. Yep. And you were fortunate enough that you had something else that was sort of like I guess it was a side hustle in a way.
It was a side hustle.
And they say that you should never rely on one thing. So this is a good example of why that's not a good idea, because if anything happens, you're stuck.
When I say I was forced into it, I literally mean that. You're there for 32 years. I literally sweat and bled for this company with the amount of times that I've been cut on the tools that I make. So now that the old manager was gone, this new manager was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do. So I called him out on it. And I was like, what you're doing is wrong. There's seniority that, we work for a big corporation. We're a global corporation that we are under umbrella of. So long story short, he's like, Ron, I understand. He goes, it's okay to be upset. And I'm a very calm person. It takes a lot to rattle me, especially in front of somebody. I will bite my tongue and just suck it up and just, I'll go someplace and just scream someplace else because I don't want somebody to see me in that way. Because the things that people remember is unfortunately the things that stick out to them the most. And if they're going to remember me blowing my top and cussing and swearing at this guy for everything that he did, even though I had every right to do it, I looked at him and I said, what you're doing is wrong. First of all, HR wise, it wasn't right the way that he did. And I knew that. So I was like, you know what? I said, I'm going to be the bigger man and I'm going to walk out of here right now. You do what you need to do. And I said, I'm going to do what I need to do. So 2 months went by. I wrote this huge letter to human resources, and I copied the president on the email also. And I just went through the whole thing about what this manager did. I was offered this. I've been groomed for this for 15 years. I've been doing it for 15 years. My manager's gone, sent it to the HR department, and I went away to Disney World. I wanted to make a decision that was based on not fear, but faith, saying, okay, whatever happens, I'm just going to trust that everything's going to fall into place. And if I made a decision and saying blank, 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 I quit, I would have lost everything that I worked hard for 32 years. So this is what I would probably say to anybody with advice wise is make a decision with a cool head and a cool heart instead of a decision made out of emotion. Because decisions made out of emotions feel great, but the repercussions can be very harmful. So I went away to Disney World on vacation with my wife and my kids. The day I came back to work, the HR department are sitting in the conference. So we sat for 3 hours and I told them everything that he said he was going to do. He promised he was going to do. And they sat there and looked me right in the face and said, Ron, we apologize. He's very new to the culture of what we do here. What he did was wrong. This is not the way we do things. We're going to fix this. This is not the way it should have been done. We apologize. He shouldn't have offered you the position because we have channels to go through. So you would have gotten it, but you have to go through the channels to do it. He just did it wrong. I was like, okay, well, let's fix it. That's great. I go home, come back the next day, HR department and the new manager is sitting in the room with me also. Now, I have a good relationship with the guy, very nice guy. I just didn't like the way that he did things. So I'm sitting there with the HR department and I'm sitting there with the manager, and their big thing was smoothing everything over first. And I feel like that's human resources' job, is to make sure there's no tension in the air and just making sure so that, hey, whatever happens, we need to make sure everybody can work together. I said, I've got no problem with that. I'm here to do my job. We just need to make this right. And you told me everything yesterday, so I'm good. We can work together. He's okay. With that being said, HR department replies, this manager has a vision for the future. So we're going to stand by what he decided to do and give the position to somebody else. So I leaned up in my chair and I said, excuse me? Now the manager's sitting right next to me. I was like, yesterday you told me everything he did was wrong and everything he did was done the wrong way with the wrong intentions and out of order according to the culture of what you have. And he goes, yes, we said that. I was like, so now today you're telling me that you're going to back him and he did everything wrong, but you're going to back him. And he was like, yes, he has a vision for the future and he's the manager. We want to trust that he has a vision for the future. And all I did was I looked up, I looked at him, I looked at the HR department, got up right out of my seat, and I walked right out the door and didn't say another word. And as I'm walking out, the HR department's like, hey, Ron, that's not the right attitude to have. And now, given everything that happened to me, now this is a global company. And I looked at him, I looked at the door, and I walked right out the door. And I was like, I waited 3 months. And I finally went in and wrote a letter. Here's my letter of resignation. Here's my 2-week notice. Walked in, placed it on his desk. And he goes, yeah, I had a feeling that was coming. And this is the first time I've ever spoken to him. It wasn't even yelling. I had every right to yell at somebody, but I spoke very sternly. How about that? And I said, I put 32 years into this company, and you come here after 1 year and disrupt the entire plan of what I was being groomed for. And I said, you took it and threw it out the window. A week and a half goes by. He goes, hey, Ron, everything that's going on, we understand if you want to leave on Tuesday instead of Friday. I said, why would I do that? He goes, well, I know the whole tension thing, we're okay with you if you want to leave early. I was like, you know what? I said, I'm going to be a man of my word. I told you I'd work 2 weeks and give you full 2 weeks of my time and my energy and my effort. I said, I'm going to work the full 2 weeks. Friday rolled around. I grabbed my toolbox, put it in the back of my truck, and drove away. And thankfully, by the grace of God, it is going to be 4 years I left that place come next month.
Wow.
And I walked away from it salary. I walked away from medical, dental, 401k, every benefit you could possibly have. I walked away from everything. I went to the beach and I said to my wife, if they can do this and say everything was wrong and still back that guy, who's to say that I'm the most paid person in the company now? Salary-wise, there's nobody above me. Who's to say that another pandemic happens and they just start cutting expenses? Who's the most expensive person in the building? They could have just chucked me out in 6 months. I said, I'm walking out of here the way that I want to walk out, with my head up high. So when I say I was forced out of that position, that's what I mean by forced out by the position, because it was just the way that they did everything. Now, the icing on the cake was I found out 2 weeks after I quit, that same manager put his 2-week notice, and he quit. I would still be there. Somebody asked me, do I miss it? I missed the guys. I missed grinding. I missed the atmosphere of making tools and engineering and reverse engineering. I loved my job that much, but I loved photography just as much. And thankfully, I had that plan B in the back pocket to fall back on, because the day after I quit and walked out that door, I didn't realize how much anxiety and pressure I was carrying in my shoulders, that I had no more back pain. I had no more shoulder pain because I left the thing that was causing so much pressure in my life.
Isn't it funny how something, because I agree with you completely, when you're under a lot of stress, a lot of times you might not even realize it, but when I am in a stressed state for anything, like it settles in my back and I have the worst back pain. And I just attribute it to the fact that I have back pain, because the same thing happened to me when I was in a stressful position and I left there. I felt so much better. I didn't realize how physically impactful that was.
Yeah. Your mind and pressure and stress. They say pressure and stress makes diamonds. I get that. But when it happens in your physical body, it tends to be neck pain, back pain, headache, aches, migraines, because your body can only function and feels the tension that you carry in what you feel and what you see and what you hear. So our bodies respond to that.
Yeah, that phrase, a pain in the neck.
Yeah, literally.
It's real. It's real.
It is real. So sorry for the long story short. That in a nutshell. I didn't want to leave. How did I was forced into it, but it ended up being the best decision I ever made. I went from doing 17 weddings a year to 45 weddings a year.
I know that you are from a family of faith. Do you feel like the universe was working on your behalf?
100%. I couldn't have done it. My pastor was dying of cancer, very, very sick at the time. I did not have a spiritual person to go to when all this stuff was happening. And there's a friend of mine, my sister and my family moved out to Virginia. So there's a church out there that I got connected with. And I called her up on the phone and she sat down and just talked to me for 2 hours. And she gave me such spiritual information. It was so practical. This is what she said. She said, Ron, how many hours a day do you work at a job that doesn't appreciate you? And I was like, well, I don't think they don't appreciate you. She goes, no, what they did to you was they don't appreciate who you are and what you do for the company. So how many hours a day do you work at your job for a company that doesn't appreciate you? I was like, wow. I said, probably 10, 11, or 12 hours a day on average. She goes, no, like on average? I was like, on average, we work 10 hours a day, 50 hours a week. She said, wow. She said, could you imagine? She said, close your eyes for a second. She said, could you imagine if you took the same 10 hours a day and put it into your photography business with networking, advertising, making better your craft, learning in your gear in photography and networking with other people? She said, could you imagine where you would be in 5 years putting 10 hours a day into your photography business instead of putting 10 hours into your business that doesn't appreciate you?
That's a wow.
My jaw hit the floor. I walked away from such a huge security blanket. And this is answering your faith question about what it is. I had to just 100% rely on faith, saying everything is going to work out. I have no idea how. I have no idea when. I have no idea. Didn't know anything. All I kept doing was what she said. I took every single day networking with people, going around to all these different events and being around all of these other people, putting those 10 hours a day into my business. And it has flourished. It literally tripled my income from what I was doing before with the machine shop. Now it's 100% photography with weddings, families, and high school seniors, plus the 1,400 square foot studio. I have the largest photography studio that is not a rentable space. I have the largest photography studio in Western Mass.
Wow.
Corporate headshots and corporate things that I do, doctors, lawyers with headshots and things like that, product photography that I do. So this is what she said. She said, don't just limit yourself to just weddings. She said, I want to see you going to the bridal shows she goes, what's the 5 states around you? I said, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont. She goes, I want to see you in a single one of those bridal shows. She said, if you can start branching yourself out in other areas, it's only going to make your name and your brand wider. So this all ties into faith that encouraged me that the more effort I put into my business, the more I'm going to get out of my business. So faith had everything to do with where I was, because that faith helped me get through that bad situation that I was in to where I am now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people, like we mentioned before, a lot of people are in the situation that you were in, where you gave so many years to a company and you were passed by with opportunity, and they stay because they don't want to take a chance. They're afraid of the outcome and they don't want to take a chance. But what you just said is exactly true. It's believing in what is supposed to happen will happen, but also taking a chance on yourself, believing in yourself. Yeah. That really speaks to the fear or the doubt, because one of the questions I was going to ask you about that, about whether or not you were making the right choice, but obviously it's very clear that you did.
There's still a fear there. And I'm being perfectly honest with you. I need to take pictures of people. So if two things happen, if COVID happens again, if a recession happens, most people won't have the money to spend on weddings. So those two fears are always in the back of my mind, because those are two things that I can't control. I can't control a pandemic. I can't control the economy. I'm subject to the economy, the health of people. The flip side of that is I feel like the pandemic caused a little bit of people to think that and realize life is too short. And my whole mentality and philosophy is I capture memories. I have people that call me up to take pictures of their dogs because their dogs are getting older and they want those preserved images of them playing with their dog or anything like that. There's a mindset. The pandemic caused people to really realize that life is short. And my philosophy is capturing the memories along the way and taking those pictures, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. I can look at one of those images from my son being born in the hospital at 1 pound, 7 ounces. His skin is undeveloped. His eyes are undeveloped. His hair follicles are undeveloped. My wedding band goes all the way up his arm to his armpit. And I can look at an image right now of those days being in the NICU, and my mind instantly goes there. I can look at an image and our minds will automatically go back to that day. Because of a single image, a single picture will trigger a memory every single time. A loved one that passes, you can pick that picture up and you can go right back in your mind like, oh my God, my mom passed away 13 years ago. Her picture's up in my studio. And one of her last things she said to me before she passed away, I was holding her hand. She said, never stop shooting. I have that whole phrase up on my studio wall. It reminds me every time I'm in there of a memory of my mom. Yeah. So it's a fear that I have that this could all end, but I'm going to ride this wave as long as I possibly can. So if there's anybody that's on the fence, my encouragement and advice to them would be stay as long as you can. I have to pay for all of my medical now. I have to pay for all of my taxes now. It's harder to do it, but the results of doing what I love to do and having the freedom that I have to do it is priceless.
Yeah. And you also had to learn how to run a business.
Yeah.
Because doing something on the side is much different than doing it as a full-time. Yeah. So along those lines, what did you have to do skill-wise or mindset-wise to shift and to become a business owner?
I had to put on my big boy pants and realize that I couldn't just be willy-nilly about it. Here's what I mean by that. If I quoted a wedding and I didn't get it, it was okay because I still had my salary from my machine shop. So if I went 3 months without booking a wedding, I was okay because I still have my full-time job. That being said, now running a business, I have to be a lot more attentive to what the economy is. I can't be $10,000 because I think I'm worth it and I'm in an area that the average is $4,000. You can't do that. You have to be very aware of business savvy wise. You can make $4,000 at a wedding, but then you can go 3 months with no weddings. So now you've only made $4,000 in 4 months. That's $1,000 a month. That's not my mortgage. So then you still got to eat. Now you still got to put food on your table. You still got to do all these other things. So you really have to learn to be very savvy. So the bulk of my money comes from April to November. So this is what I told my pastor friend when I was talking to them. She said, you're worried about that December, January, February, March with no weddings. I was like, yeah, because that's the bulk of my money. She said, you're going to have to learn to budget better. Don't spend everything across the whole summertime. Oh my God, you've got all this money. Let's go on vacation. And then those 3 months come by with no income. She said, this is where you just pivot your marketing and your advertising. So during your slow season, you start targeting families, maternity sessions. She goes, don't people still have babies in the wintertime? I was like, oh, yeah, they do. She said, don't they still have maternity pictures in the wintertime? I was like, oh, yeah, they do. She said, don't they still need headshots in the wintertime? I was like, oh my God, yeah, I do. She goes, so just pivot your marketing to summertime's advertising for weddings and families and high school seniors. And then come wintertime, focus on the babies, the newborns, the maternity sessions, the product photography, and the headshots. She says, as long as you're making something during that time, you'll be okay. So you just got
a great business coach.
I'll tell you a story. We'll talk another time. She's a very, very influential person. She actually does a seminar called Mind Shift. And I did the seminar on that Mind Shift. And you really you have to change the way you think. If you think poor, and I'm not talking about that name it and claim it mentality, like, oh, I'm going to go buy that $100,000 car. Well, that payment book comes along with it. So you got to have a job to pay for that. So there's a balance in there. It's the mind shift and the mindset that I had to rethink how I did everything. I had to learn how to be a business person. Thankfully, I've got a lot of friends down here who've been in business for many years, and they've been helping me to do this and pay your taxes quarterly and make sure you pay extra on your taxes and little things like that. There's so much stuff. It's like it's a learning process, but it was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah. And do you have a team that works with you, or because are you the bookkeeper and you're the office manager and you just do it all?
There's a software that I use, not for a plug or anything like that. It's called 17 Hats. I literally wear all 17 hats.
Is it really called 17 hats?
It's called 17 Hats. Yeah. So there's pros and cons to that. The pro to that is I have my hand in everything, which means I have control over everything. So my marketing, my advertising, the money that comes in, the money that goes out, my bridal shows and everything else like that, taxes. And I do have an accountant, and I just added a bookkeeper because I couldn't keep up with the monthly stuff. And then I would do it at the end of the year and be overwhelmed. So I've got a monthly bookkeeper that we meet every month, and I give her my receipts. She gives me last month. So I've got a bookkeeper and I've got an accountant at the end of the year. Everything else is done by me. The con to that is you stretch pretty thin. I don't feel like I'm at a busy enough place in my business to relinquish marketing to anybody else, advertising to anybody else. I'm doing all of that stuff on my own because I know how I want to sound, and I know how I want to be seen, and I know my brand. Try and show somebody else like that to do an advertisement for me that doesn't sound like me, it doesn't become out genuine. So a few things I do hold tight to my chest. The only team that I have now is, thankfully, by the grace of God, I've added another team to my photography company. So not only am I going out on a Saturday, I have another team going out on a Saturday. I'm busy enough to relinquish, and both of the guys that I have are good, to another team. And I could do it 7 times a year if I wanted to, but I only do it like 2 or 3 because my mind, because I'm still worried about them working on their wedding and I'm at my wedding. So my mind is like, okay, I hope everything's working out okay. I hope they're listening. So my mind can't handle too much of that. So some people are complaining that the leads are down and the inquiries are down on weddings and things like that. I have 37 weddings already booked for this year. I already have 27 weddings for 2026, and I already have 3 weddings for 2027.
Wow.
So right now I have another team that I'm working with and training to send them out under my name and under my umbrella. So I send them out. They do all the shooting. They're really good at what they do. Very creative, just as creative as me, just as talented as me. So I don't have to worry about that. They turn the images over to me. I edit them so the brand and the coloring and the style is all the same. And then I pay them at the end of the night, and then they're good to go. It's more editing for me, but it gives me another opportunity to get 2 or 3 more weddings per year under my umbrella.
Yeah. How many hours a week do you work?
As a business owner, I'm going to say probably 20 hours a day. And it feels like that, Carrie. It feels like that because there's always something happening. So with every wedding, it takes me about 50 hours to edit each wedding. So if I do a wedding on a Saturday, it takes me all of next week and the week after to get all of the editing done. So it takes me 2 weeks to edit every wedding. Yeah. I tell them 5 weeks they're going to get their images back. So I'm still ahead of the game. If I shoot 2 weddings in one weekend, a Saturday, Sunday, then I have 2 weeks. Now I've got to get that much more weddings edited by then. So I feel like the majority of my time is editing. I would say 70% of the time is editing, 20% of the time is the business, and the rest of it is just taking day trips with my family and stuff like that, and doing events like yours and stuff like that, and doing little things like that. I've had great opportunities like that too. So yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But it's work that you love, and so you probably feel like you're not really working. I mean, you are, but 100%, 100%. It doesn't feel like work. Yeah. That's the one thing about turning your passion into a profession is that you don't really feel like you're working. But you are. You're actually working harder, but you're working smarter, and you're working for yourself, which is self-gratifying. Mm-hmm. And that is the blessing where it feels like I don't feel like I'm actually working. Yeah. In my job, my wife says, don't tell me you're going to work because all you do is go and play and have fun with people. And I do. I have a lot of fun at my weddings. We laugh, we joke, we play. When people are relaxed, they photograph better. If I can make them laugh and joke and I memorize every single one of their names, the entire wedding party is memorized by the end of the night, and I'll call them all by their first name. And they can't believe that. And they're surprised that I can remember 2 names, let alone 13 names. But I laugh and I joke and I play, and they get so much more relaxed when they're around me because they don't feel so much pressure with this big camera in their face trying to take their picture. They're so much more relaxed. So I have to come in almost like an entertainer and just laugh and joke and play and get them to relax. They start to slow down a little bit. They're not so tentative and nervous about the guy standing in the corner with a camera. My job is great. I have a good job. Yeah, definitely. But when you have a passion for what you want to do, I don't care if it's making soap. I don't care if it's mowing lawns. If it's something that's for yourself and you work the hours and you create the hours at what you want to do, that's the gratifying part behind it. I was going to ask you about that. So it's a good segue. What would you say to someone in their 40s or 50s? You were in your career for 32 years when you made the switch. What would you say to somebody who's 40s or later who thinks it might be too late to start something new? That is a mindset that they have to change. Yeah, it's all mindset. They have to shift that mentality because I changed at 51 because I'm going to be 57 this year. So I'm going into my 4th year. So I changed at 51, almost 52. And I left the corporate job that I had in all the stability to go do something that I love to do. So it's never too late. So the advice I said before stands, stay as long as you have to. Once you feel like, oh my God, I've had it, that's enough. Take a deep breath. Do not make any hasty decisions in the moment. Like you just had a fight with your boss and your boss was complaining about something you were doing and, oh, that's it, I quit. Don't make decisions like that. Go home, be by yourself for the weekend and just mull it over and make a decision based out of peace and harmony as opposed to fear and anger and frustration. So it's never too late. I did it at 52. Somebody can do it at 41. It doesn't matter the age at all. It's the mindset that is the most important thing. I have the mindset I can do anything. The Bible says I can do all things. I literally live by that every day. I had somebody when I was working at the shop, I bought my camera and I bought a better camera and I was starting to take more pictures of family and friends. I had a guy tell me right to my face, Ron, don't bother buying a camera. You're never going to make any money at photography. And I looked at him and now he was a photographer. He was a better photographer. So it was almost like a looking down his nose mentality. Like, hey, don't even bother trying to do that. You're never going to make any money off it.
So he just didn't have the mindset.
He did. Well, how do I say this? It was a very selfish, self-centered, downgrading, talking somebody down. You get around me, and if you don't walk away encouraged, then I didn't do my job. This man was not like that. He did not build and live his life with the intentions of encouraging people. I looked at him, and now again, that was about 15 years ago that he said that to me. And I looked at him, and I was like, I said, challenge accept. Here I am with the largest photography studio in Western Massachusetts, doing 37 to 45 weddings per year, and he's still working at the same job.
I would love to know what he thinks right now.
We are not on speaking terms.
I can imagine.
All I can say is, how do you like me now?
I love it.
I haven't spoken to that man in 4 years, and I'm okay with that. If you have somebody that's telling you can't do something, get away from that person.
Yeah.
Just get away from that person, because surround yourself with people that can encourage you to do good and do right, that this is going to be beneficial, and make a decision based out of peace and calm instead of frustration and fear. So 41 is not too late. 51 is not too late.
Yeah, that's so true. It's amazing actually to think about it. And I think too, post-COVID, there's a lot of people that have made changes in their lives, and a lot of people realized what's important, and that their health and their well-being and their families are priorities. And they're rethinking the way that they lived their life before. But there's still so many people. I know so many people that go to a cubicle every day and they can't stand their job, but they never do anything about it.
It's fear.
And it's so sad.
You're leaving you're leaving a security blanket, and I get that. There's a saying that one of my wife's friends said to her, life's too short, just buy the lake house. Life's too short. Staying where you're stuck, you're only going to be miserable, and you're going to feel it in your body. You're going to feel it in your mind. You're going to feel it in all of that. Stay as long as you can, but eventually make a decision based out of peace and calmness, and chase it. How many hours does that person go to work every day? On average, probably 8 hours. If you're sitting in a place for 8 hours and you're miserable, this is my advice to them. The same thing that pastor gave me years ago when she talked to me about it. Put the same amount of hours you're going to the job that you hate. Put those same 8 hours a day into something that you love to do, and wait till you see where you are in 5 years.
Yeah. Even if you in the beginning continue working your job and put a couple hours a week into something else.
Work the hustle on the side.
Yep. And then you can turn that hustle. It's probably a passion. If it's a hustle, it's a passion, I'm sure. And you can turn that into a career.
I don't care if it's baking cupcakes. I don't care if it's making soap. I don't care if it's cutting somebody's lawn. I don't care if it's bedazzling a pair of bridal shoes, or it doesn't, any hobby. Now, the drawback is can you be a millionaire by making cupcakes? Probably not. But can you supplement your income? Absolutely supplement your income as long as you can.
And what has this shift taught you about yourself?
That I can do anything. As long as you set your mind to it, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Without the mindset, you got to have both. It's like the 1-2 punch. Mindset, mentality, you can do anything.
And you must feel so much more aligned and fulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
No more pain in my body, except for working a 12-hour wedding. But no more from anxiety, and I don't have to work with people that don't like me. I don't have to work with people that, I don't have to go to that 9-to-5 job, which was actually 5-to-5 job, every single day, and being disrespected and overlooked and all that other stuff like that anymore. I don't have to do that anymore. And to me, that's peace.
Yeah.
That's peace.
Yep. That's priceless.
That's priceless.
Our podcast is about living your fullest life in the second half. What does that mean to you? Living life to the fullest in the second half.
Life's too short. I lost my mom at a very young age. I lost my dad at a very young age. They're not here to see me where I am right now. What it means to me is life's too short. Go on the vacations. We go on a cruise every single year. That's my disconnect time. That's my go on that vacation, kick my feet up and just relax, get rejuvenated, get, re-energized, come back and hit the grind again, because running a business is hard. It's full time. It's a full-time thing to do that, mentality wise too. Where's my next wedding coming from? I have to do that next bridal show to do that. So what does living life to the fullest is change the mindset, do what's right for you, do the vacations. Vacations cost money, which means you need to work. So find a way to make it work.
And I was going to ask you, but you pretty much answered the question. I was going to ask you what you hope people listening might get out of this conversation.
Don't wait too long, but wait long enough. Does that make sense?
I love that. Did you make that up?
I just made it up. I'm gonna have to write that. I'm gonna have to write that down. Don't wait too long, but wait just long enough.
I love it.
Make a decision based out of fear and frustration, because the results will only come out of fear and frustration. The results out of peace and calm, the results will be better from that. I had to clear my mind. I had to go away for the weekend. And I just had to say to my wife, she was more afraid of walking away from all of that stability and security than anything else. I was too, but I'm a guy. I'm like, I can make it work. But I had a very supportive wife that she understood that if they can do that to me after 32 years of what I've done, and they still backed the wrong person, what could they have done to me further on down the road? They could have just said, hey, Ron, we need to cut some expenses, and you're the most expensive person in the building, so we're going to let you go. And then I would have left on their terms. I left on my terms. I left the high road the way that I wanted to go. So what advice I would say to somebody is just, life's too short. Don't wait too long, but wait just long enough. And only that person will know that decision. Only that person will know that timing at all.
Yep. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been amazing. I know that there are people who might be listening that will get a lot out of this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me.
I love it. You have shared some golden nuggets.
Good. I'm glad it's a golden nugget.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening today. If this episode sparked something in you, please share it with a friend, leave a comment or a review, and reach out and let me know what resonated. Remember, no matter what age or stage of life you're in, you can pivot. And always remember, the second half of life is not a winding down. It's a waking up. Please follow or subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our podcast family. Let's keep showing up and being the best version of ourselves. Until next time, take care.